It is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. The time is 6:30 p.m. I'm John DeWanzik, and this is the regular meeting of the Avon Lake Board of Municipal Utilities. On the board tonight, from my right is Mr. Ricky and Mrs. Schnabel. To my left is Mr. Abram and Mr. Rush. Also here tonight from staff is Chief Utilities Executive, Mr. Monroe to my right, and Chief of Utility Operations, Mr. Urinich, at the table. Also from staff is Mr. Bill Logan, who's the Finance Director. Mr. Bruce Rinker is here from outside counsel to keep us between the ditches. In the audience tonight, we have Mr. Bill Zimmerman, Mr. Nick Mondello, and Mr. Gerald Smith. Phillips, sorry, wrong lawyer. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed on Facebook and YouTube, and we have an opportunity for people in the audience in Cyberland to give input at the time of public speakers, and actually any time during the meeting, but it will be read at the time of public speakers. Also at that time, people in the audience are given the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. There's an additional opportunity at the end of the meeting for public speakers. With the full board here, we have a quorum, and it takes 3 affirmative votes to pass any motion. All votes are taken by voice, except for the motion to go into executive session, which is taken by roll call. Mr. Rush, I think I got it tonight.
I believe so.
Okay, so having said all that, we have the first order of business, which is approve the minutes from the August 20th?
Yes, that is correct.
20th meeting. Are there any comments on those?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Mr. Abram?
Thank you for excusing me last meeting. My question is, should we also excuse the CUE?
I don't think we have to, actually.
Typically, we don't on
No.
staff.
Correct. This is a board meeting. There's no
Right,
members of
he's
the
not
board.
on the board.
Okay.
And I mean, there's no excuse for him.
Thank you, just to clarify that.
Okay, let's see. I hope that was informative. My answer was informative. Okay, so anyway, are there any comments beyond that on the minutes? Hearing none, they are approved as submitted. The next item of business is public speakers. Let's start with Cyberland. Mr. Urinich, anything there?
No comments at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then we have people in the audience. Would anyone like to speak? 3 minutes will be the limit. Please limit your comments to business about the utility. Mr. Zimmerman.
Good evening, William Zimmerman. I saw that you finally got the meeting up on Facebook, and yet it took 2 weeks. What was the problem? Do we know?
We had an issue with the Facebook, and we talked about that on the phone when I
We
talked to you
did.
the other day. It was on our YouTube channel.
Right.
Um,
Which I viewed it there.
Okay,
I think a lot of the citizens in the city use Facebook more than they use YouTube, and so they've lost out on the opportunity to view that. And so why did it take 14 days?
we had issues with Facebook before, and it's still not on Facebook because transferring it over from the YouTube to Facebook is problematic. But we do have it on our YouTube page, as well as our minutes from the meeting.
As I read part of your minutes, I felt like some of the statements that were in there when I was up here speaking were semi-inaccurate. And since all of you have already approved them, doesn't give me any recourse to talk about them and stuff from my standpoint. I don't find that to be good, though. I don't know that if I should have been calling Mr. Monroe today on my drive back to try to have conversation about it, so that because I didn't see the published minutes until I just got here. I'm sure they were up online earlier today, but I didn't have that opportunity. So for whatever reason, I don't agree necessarily with what the minutes are published. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Here comes Mr. Phillips.
Gerald W. Phillips, 461 Windward Way. I'm looking at the minutes. August 20th. They asked for the copy of the resolution by the board authorizing the purchase of the property from ALERG. I didn't put that in writing yet, so I guess I will, and send it to Mr. Monroe. Also, I asked for the copy of the policy or the declaration that has this so-called $15 million environmental insurance policy where the city of either Avon Lake or Avon Lake Regional Water is an additional insured. So that's in writing. Then also, I asked both the ALRW and the city on the purchase agreement. There's 4 conditions called A1, A2, A3, A4, and 2 called B1 and B2. I made a public records request for any documents substantiating those conditions, and that's in writing. I did ask for the so-called stormwater connection. And I asked for all permits issued by the water, but according to Mr. Monroe, there's no permits. But if you read your regulations, when they demolish that building, you need to get a permit because there are utilities there. So there should have been a permit. They have water, they had sewers while it was operating. So when a building is demolished and there's those connections, they need to come to this board or this organization to get a permit. That's all. Oh, one additional item. I know this board talked about and actually went to the city of Lorraine and tried to convince people there that they should, work out an arrangement with Avon Lake Regional Water. It's my understanding that the county is trying to work out a deal with Vermilion. And Vermilion has probably a worse situation than Lorraine. I don't know if this board has the ability to service Vermilion, or they would have to go through Lorraine and Vermilion, but that's just a question I have.
Okay.
Because I'm doing a lot of things in Vermilion in the last 3 months.
Understand.
So,
Thank you for that information, Mr. Phillips. If you want to continue later in the meeting, you're welcome to. All right. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. Mr. Monroe,
I do not have anything to pass along this evening.
thank you for passing that along. Next item on the agenda is expenditures on your goldenrod sheets. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Abrams?
I move to approve Avon Lake Regional Water expenses from August 16th through August 29, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Abrams. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Schnabel. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions.
Mr. Abrams, you have comments?
On Fund 701 and also the ETL Fund 703, there was some water main breaks, and I just wanted to know, we tell the board where they occurred and how bad they were.
703, okay, there it is.
And then in the 701, number 62, water breaks.
It was Candera Enterprises that charges, and Mr. Yurnich can explain that.
Those were incorrectly attributed to Fund 701. Those breaks all occurred on ETL 1.
Oh, I see.
Those have since been reclassified to take care of that.
Okay, now where in ETL1 did they occur?
Along the tracks.
Same places.
Yeah, there was a total of 4, I believe. And those were, 3 of the 4 were directly related to the power outages from the storm.
That's all. Thank you. I have.
Anything else? Anyone else? I have a couple of questions on my own. First off, number 84 on Fund 701. We have something called reimbursement for expenses, CESSWI, which I don't know if it's a jumble or what does that mean?
Mr. Yurnich has that information.
That stands for Certified Erosion, Sediment, and Stormwater Inspector. That was a course pursued by Mr. Larson.
Thank you. Number 78, Verizon Wireless. We have 2 of those, one in that and one in 721, number 50. And I'm wondering, is that the whole organization's cell phones?
Yes.
At once? Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. And then lastly, I thought there was one other, perhaps not. That's all I have then. Any other comments on these? All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. The motion passes. And it's time for Mr. Logan and supplemental appropriation.
Sure. This is, I think, the first one brought before you this year. When I'm the finance director, I would call these reappropriations, and we had a few of them throughout the year. All we're asking is to increase some budget lines. However, as a finance director, I was able to, when a budget line goes over, when your actual expense goes over the budgeted amount, other lines are well under the budgeted amount. And within certain categories of expenses within the same fund, excuse me, within the same categories of expense, we can transfer appropriations. So in other words, if you're over on one line, but you're well under on another line, we would have the authority. And I believe the finance department in Avon Lake does have that authority to move those budget monies around. So these truly aren't all increases in the budget. Of this amount, about $98,000 is a true increase to the budget, with most of that coming in the 2 debt service funds, Fund 706 and Fund 727. And then 50,000 of it is actually an increase in the Lorco 749 fund for refunds and reimbursements. And what that is, that's where the Lorco 1, which takes in all the credit card revenue for the entire Lorco phases, I'm sorry, not phase, the Lorco 1 and Lorco 2. So Lorco 1 collects all that credit card money, even if it's Lorco 2 people paying, it goes into that same merchant account, runs through there. So every month we cut a check for those Lorco 2 credit card payments from Lorco 1 to Lorco 2. We're a custodial agent for Lorco 1, but not for Lorco 2. So it's just basically Lorco 1 paying Lorco 2. And we've gone way over budget there because there's been an increase in the number of people paying by credit card with the Lorco 2. It's around $6,000 a month. So the $50,000 that we're asking for there truly is an increase in the budget for this year from that custodial fund. I again, in my finance director days in Avon, I would kind of read through all the reappropriations. I'm not sure you want me to do that, but I'll address any questions or handle this any way you'd like me to. Mr. Rush?
Whether you do it or somebody does, I think just for the record, I know this becomes part of the official record,
Yes.
but I think for the public, if we just said from what fund to what fund, this is the totals.
Sure.
You know, that would be
That's
helpful
fine.
just
Okay.
for the record.
And that for each fund,
Correct.
correct? Not every line item, but just
No,
the fund
exactly.
total.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, sure. So the water fund, Fund 701, total supplemental appropriation requested is $80,669.64. The Fund 703, that's the ETL 1 fund, total supplemental appropriations requested is $85,000. The Fund 706, that's the water debt service fund, and the total supplemental appropriations requested there are $68,730.74. Fund 721, the wastewater fund, total supplemental appropriations requested $53,970.62. Fund 727, the wastewater debt service fund, total supplemental appropriations requested $39,659.39. The Fund 709, the Lorco Custodial Account Fund, total supplemental appropriations requested $77,555.27. And the 762, the ETL 2 fund, total supplemental appropriations requested is $70,000. The total appropriation requested is $475,585.66.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Is that sufficient, Mr. Rush?
Yes, and as you mentioned before, only about 85,000 is new appropriation.
A little over 98,000
Okay,
is a true increase in the budget.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this comes from the general fund of our account.
It's all within our own, there's no new money coming in. It's all moving from one pocket to another.
Or it goes to the general funds of these different accounts.
There's a request for a motion, Mr.
Just one item I just wanted to add that Mr. Logan provided on the memo that we had provided in your board packets is above each fund, there is also the current fund balance of each of those budget funds. And that fund balance is as of July 31st, because obviously when we were writing this last week, August was not finished yet. So that's a good snapshot to show you that's, it's referred to, we refer to it as fund balance. You can refer to it and think of it as money in the bank. That is what the balance for each of those budget funds is.
Okay, thank you. So we have a recommended motion. Would someone like to make it? I'll make it. I move to authorize the CUE and the Business and Financial Coordinator to execute appropriations for the 2024 budget as presented to the board. May I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Rush. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Okay, the next item is project updates. Mr. Urinich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the power plant update, the Avon Lake Environmental Redevelopment Group, they've been focusing on clearing all of the debris from the implosion that they had. They're trying to get that area all cleaned up so that they can move forward with planning their next implosion, which would be 2 additional boilers. They haven't set a date for that, but as they get closer to knowing when that will take place, they will provide us updates on that. The ETL design services, there's no updates at this time. For the water filtration plant improvements, the Great Lakes Construction Company, they've installed the electrical duct bank that is going to power the new chemical feed building. They've also finished relocating the storm sewer that had interfered with the foundation. There was a couple of unused storm sewers and a manhole that they have just removed, bulkheaded, and taken that out. One of the big things that we had done, so one of the, I guess, more difficult things to plan for when we tie in the filtrate line from the new filters tying into our existing system, that's going to require a shutdown of plant operations Obviously, we've got a very limited time that we would like the plant to be down. We're planning on doing this in November when our demand would be at the lowest. But something else that we also wanted to include in that planning was, I guess, the ability to temporarily abandon the shutdown. If we're progressing through the tie-in and we're seeing that demand is outpacing the reserves of water we have, we want to have, I guess, different points in that process that we can say, we've got to pause this for now. We need time to get things back in service so that we can restore enough water throughout the system to accommodate everyone. So we had a nice meeting with that, working towards finalizing that plan so that, even if there are surprises, that, we've got options to keep a reserve of water throughout the process. But like I said, that's scheduled for November. So
Quick question. Is there
Please
any,
address the chair, Mr. Ricky. If you ask the chair the question, go ahead.
am I recognized?
You are, I said, go ahead.
Thank you. To tie, is there any thought of opening the bypass from Elyria to our side to help service water south of us?
that would be an option, but we'd really like to try to avoid that
Okay.
until we've had
I'm
an
just saying.
opportunity to flush
Okay.
that line.
Okay.
With the water only moving in one direction those years, we'd like to have an opportunity to flush that.
Okay.
before
I'm
we
just
use it.
just questioning if that
But-
is an option to maintain adequate water during
Sure.
such an exercise. Okay.
Mr. Urinich, in the future, something like this, that's kind of a new mental picture for everyone on the board. Actual pictures may aid us in understanding what the issue is.
We can do that.
Thank you. You want to go on with SCADA?
For the SCADA communication upgrade, I believe this was last Wednesday. I met with a representative from CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. We had done an assessment with them regarding our physical security at all of our properties. And this was the, cybersecurity version of that assessment. They took a look at the way our network is set up, the equipment we use, standard operating procedures, went through a questionnaire with her and to kind of assess our overall cybersecurity fitness to see how that matches up with current best management practices. So she is preparing the final report on that. We had planned on meeting. For that meeting, we covered just the IT side of things, daily computers, everybody's office computers. Our SCADA consultant or contractor, they received an emergency call out that day, so they were unable to attend that. We will be repeating that same survey with them, either in person or if they're willing to come back out. She said she would come up here for that, but we will be completing the same thing. We found a couple of easy to address things. Some of the things are going to be a little more challenging as far as how you balance accessibility and security. So we'll be taking a look at those as well. But we also had the opportunity, even though the SCADA contractor was not here, we presented the plans we had for the dedicated server room at the water filtration plant. She did not find any issues with what we had proposed. So that's something we'll be moving forward with as well to increase the security of that OT network.
Again, I would ask that pictures be provided for this in the future because these projects are relatively new and obscure to the board. So a picture says 1,000 words and you're getting off light then. How much you have to say. All right, anyone else? All right, and let's go on to CUE report, Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Phillips did leave, and I just did want to address a couple of his comments regarding the public records requests that he has made. One regarding the insurance policy that was provided to him with all the amendments and endorsements on that environmental insurance policy that was part of our purchase that was provided to him earlier today via email. So that is satisfied. He probably hadn't had a chance to check his email when he came to the meeting. As far as the resolution that the board passed authorizing the purchase, I believe that I provided that to him prior several months ago, but I will make sure that he gets another copy of that. And any of the other items, we will work directly on those to make sure that any records that we do have, public records that we do have, are provided.
Typically, again, similar to the pictures, in my business, if you hand somebody papers, you give them a transmittal, which you make a record that something was transmitted, because he may have gotten them, he may not have gotten them, but like, it's not enough that you remember or don't remember. You have to have a paperwork memorandum. Okay,
And that is all I have. Thank you.
so let's make that a regular policy. All right, anyone, members,
I have a question for
yes,
Mr.
Mr. Avon.
Yeah, he also mentioned the city of Vermillion. Is there any chance that we could take over the management of that plant for a fee?
What we do know about their plant, I don't know that it would necessarily be something that we would specifically be interested in taking over that plant. But I think there is some possibilities for growth expansion of our utility out in that direction.
I'm thinking about, management of the plant. Is that-
Yeah, their facility where it's located it's not a very good location as far as I think that if we're going to go out there, it's going to be more than just managing just that facility. So
I've never seen that plant, so I don't know.
yeah, and Mr. Gibney, our water filtration plant manager, in his previous role in Huron, was contracted by the city of Vermillion to run that facility, and he did so for a few months. He's very familiar with it. There's a lot of upgrades that are needed. Again, but yes, there's always looking to grow and expand the utility.
And to your point, they're in a transition period. Supposedly we're going to, take over that utility at some point. There'd be a transition where you're operating that water plant while you make other arrangements. So that would probably be the case. But this is all speculative. There's
Oh, yeah, I know.
nothing official. And so, all right. Any members with reports?
Oh, yeah, I do have it.
Nothing.
I do.
Okay.
I must give my local update.
All right.
Plans are nearing completion to construct 38 new units at Eaton Crossing subdivision, which is located on Route 82. And that should be sometime next month or the month after. And as of August 31st, 2024, the total number of Florco taps stands at 1,631. And my second item is that I provided an article from a magazine called Water World. It's about the new US EPA regulations to limit PFAS in drinking water. And the magazine states that the utilities have until 2029 to implement solutions that reduce PFAS in their systems.
Thank you, Mr. Abram. Just to clarify or to confirm, you said Lorco is currently 1,631
Yes,
taps.
yes.
And how many are projected in the, let's say, next 12 to 24 months?
Well, we should be over 1,800
So
soon.
a couple hundred more?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're getting somewhere near what we
Break even
thought was
point?
going to be break even, yeah. Okay, anyone else? Any other members with anything? I have nothing, so let's move on to public speakers. Gentlemen.
Thank you, William Zimmerman. As I stated earlier, I have a difficult time understanding how 14 days and something isn't fixed in the computer world nowadays. Facebook is extremely valuable place for the citizens to gain information. They're not getting that opportunity. They may not know how to go to YouTube. They may not like YouTube. And so it doesn't give them an alternative. I feel like the previous meeting, because of what was discussed and the way things were handled, I thought was valuable that it was out there for the public to know. And I don't want to rehash old things. The incident with Mr. Ricky, I believe, was inaccurately described in the minutes. And I had a conversation with Mrs. Snobble at the library. I believe that there was issues there as well. She's telling me other additional things. I don't understand what's going on at this position at the board. I would hate to compare you to the city council that I fight with regularly, take to court, sue, do whatever I have to, win, and will continue to do so. Because the public needs to know what's really going on in these kinds of chambers. And I believe in no way, shape, or form anyone's immune from something that would be considered collusion at these levels. I have to run to the other meeting.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman, and Mr. Mondello, you have anything you'd like to add?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a, pardon me? Oh, is there any comments from the cyber world, Mr.?
There are none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me, Mr. Rush. All right, then we have a request for an executive session to discuss personnel matters and purchase and or sale of property. No formal action is expected following the executive session. Would someone like to make the motion? Mr. Rush.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to meet in executive session as allowed by Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1 and G2 to discuss the employment and or dismissal of a public employee and the purchase and or sale of public property, and to include the CUE, the CUO, and the business and financial coordinator and a representative from Manzer Gavin.
Thank you, Mr. Rush. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Abram. Roll call vote, Mr. Ricky?
Yes.
Mrs. Schnabel?
Yes.
Mr. Abram?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. We will adjourn to executive session. Thank you, Mr. Mondello, for attending tonight, and we'll start the meeting after the room is